Hey, ever hear of The Toy? It's a comedy from 1982, directed by Richard Donner. Yeah, the guy who made Superman and The Goonies. It stars Richard Pryor, Jackie Gleason, and a kid named Scott Schwartz. The movie tries to poke fun at issues like race, money, power, and friendship. But honestly, it sparked a lot of eye rolls and criticism over the years. The Basics, The Toy, hit theaters on December 10th, 1982. The script was adapted by Karel Sobieski from a French movie called Le Jouet. Here's who's in it. Richard Pryor as Jack Brown, Jackie Gleason as U.S. Bates, Scott Schwartz as Eric Bates, Ned Beatty as Barkley, Teresa Gansel as Fancy Bates. It runs about 102 minutes and is basically a straight-up comedy. The studio behind it is Rastar, and Columbia Pictures handled the release. If you're wondering, it's rated PG. What's it about? Jack Brown, played by Richard Pryor, is a journalist in Baton Rouge who just can't catch a break. He's out of work and flat broke, so he takes a janitor job at a department store. The place happens to be owned by this super rich guy, U.S. Bates, Jackie Gleason. Things get weird fast. Bates' spoiled son, Eric, walks into the store, spots Jack, and basically says, "I want him as my new toy." Next thing you know, Jack gets paid a ridiculous amount of money to hang out and entertain Eric, pretty much as his personal plaything. Jack only agrees because he really needs the cash, but soon he's stuck in this pretty humiliating, not so subtle racist situation. But as Jack and Eric spend more time together, they start to actually get along. Jack helps Eric stand up to his distant dad and see how being rich doesn't solve everything, while Eric kind of helps Jack realize his own value. So yeah, this movie is marketed as a family comedy, but it's really not shy about poking at race and class stuff, sometimes in awkward ways. Here are some of the big ideas. Race and power. You can't ignore the fact that a rich white kid literally buys a black man as a toy. It's kind of shocking and intentionally provocative, referencing America's own messed up history. Economic desperation. Jack's situation is all about how being broke can make people do things that are embarrassing or worse. Parenting and privilege. The movie makes fun of uber-rich, hands-off parenting. U.S. Bates is the definition of an absentee dad. Friendship and redemption. Jack and Eric's friendship is supposed to make the whole thing feel heartwarming, even if the setup is pretty cringe. Did people like it? Let's just say, most critics didn't love this film. Box office. Sure, it made about $47 million on a $17 million budget, so it didn't flop. Critics' take. The reviews were rough. Most people said the whole idea was kinda tone-deaf and yikes. Roger Ebert gave it just 1 star out of 4 and called it desperately confused. The New York Times labeled it offensive. The only thing they liked was Pryor's acting. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at 27%. Nostalgia is basically the only reason fans give it a higher score. Now, The Toy is usually brought up as an example of a comedy that had its heart in the right place, but missed the mark. Especially after the civil rights era, this setup just doesn't fly. Richard Pryor. Nearly everyone agrees he's the best thing about the movie. He's funny and somehow manages to give the part some dignity, though fans wish he'd gotten better material. Cult status. These days, The Toy is mostly remembered because of how weird and awkward it is. People mention it whenever talking about movies that would never get made now. How to watch. DVD and Blu-ray. You can find it from Columbia, Sony pretty easily. Streaming. Every once in a while, it pops up on Amazon Prime, Pluto TV, or Tubi. Quick trivia. The French original Le Jouet, 1976, is more subtle and leans more into satire. Pryor asked for some scenes where he could push back against the film's premise, but a lot of that was toned down before the movie came out. Teresa Gansel, Fancy Bates, was known back then for being a regular on The Tonight Show and The Love Boat. The bottom line. The Toy is one weird mashup of slapstick and serious social commentary. In the end, it can't quite make its wacky setup and big ideas fit together. It tries so hard to be about friendship and human dignity, but most people today see it as dated and a little bit tone-deaf. A lot of folks look at it now as a time capsule, a movie that wanted to say something important but just didn't pull it off. Still, if you're a Richard Pryor fan or love oddball 80s movies, it might be worth a watch, if only to see just how wild movies used to be.